Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Thanks again to Mike Babinski and Chad Q. Brown for guests, and thanks also to our sponsors, Triple X, Tom, place at Tom Dienhart, our segment guest, and I like to frequent now and then, as often as possible, as a matter of fact. State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. And Tom, I don't know if we feel this way always when you get to that season opener where you can't talk about it anymore almost, but when it's here. And I was over at the stadium on Thursday night just for a second, kind of driving by, walked in, and man, it's an interesting look. The whole thing is different. You've been inside. I guess start with that, just that whole fact that the structures are going to have a different feel with that south end zone, the Tiller Tunnel, just your impressions of what kind of effect that might have on tomorrow's game with Fresno State.
Yeah, it's like you said, different, and it's kind of exciting, if I put my fan hat on and think what it would be like to sit in that south end zone. It's going to be a pretty neat experience for the students down there, Alan, and the band will be down there as well. And it'll be neat, the fact that you could walk around the perimeter, or the edge of the stadium is going to be neat too. And then the tunnel, boy, it'd be cool to run out on that tunnel on a game day. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun watching the team go through the first, I guess, machinations of the renovation as game one takes place, Alan. And what a backdrop, right? I think we talked about this earlier this week about have there been many more, I guess, intriguing openers in recent history. And I think both of you and I both agree that this one ranks right up there as far as intrigue goes for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is, again, is the stadium renovation, but on the field, right? The opponent and what's at stake and wanting to set the table, and on we can go. But yeah, it's a game that just has me intrigued on a lot of different levels for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, it really is, and you and I can remember, I was thinking about this is 42 years ago, but September of 1981, when Stanford and the Blimp came here, and all ABC, and there was only one television game a day, and the Stanford band was on campus 3 days before. There's been a lot of anticipation for this one, and it was funny last night walking in that concourse, just walking under the kind of the southwest corner where the visitors will come in, just a whole different feel to it. And you're right, Tom, this is a football game and there's a lot more to it than the facility. But I do think that, and Mike Babinski said in segment 1, 95% of the way done. All the changes, all the things that have to be fixed are cosmetic, mostly to do with the tunnel. By the time that the Boilermakers in Syracuse go on September 16th, I get the impression that will be complete as well. But yes, there's a football game, and really an intriguing one as well. I think that adds to it. It's not like you're playing Popcorn State, so to speak. You're playing Fresno State, a team that won 10 games last year, has an experienced a coach that's been through a lot of the wars, as Dean Cady always used to say. What do you see as this one? This is really going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, you're right. And again, Fresno State's got a heck of a coach, Alan, Jeff Tedford. 61-year-old, coach Cal for a long time. Last time Cal was relevant, he was the head coach. Aaron Rodgers, head coach. He's a guy who's mentored a lot of quarterbacks, many of whom went on to be first-round draft choices. So what I'm trying to say here is this guy knows offense and is just a sage mind. His team's going to be ready. And that's the side of the ball, Alan, where I think Fresno has the most questions. They have a new quarterback, Central Florida transfer, a shorter guy, Mikey Keene, and have to replace a couple receivers and a running back, but they like their line on offense. So we'll see how quickly he has his offense up to speed, Alan. This is a team that started 1-4 last year and won its last 9 games. How about that? Capped it by beating Washington State in the bowl game. They've beaten a Power 5 team each of the last 2 years. They beat UCLA 2021. So anybody who knows anything about college football knows about Fresno State. And I know history doesn't matter for today, but still it's a proud program that prides itself on really being blue collar and tough. from the valley, they call it, and always have a chip on their shoulder. Remember when Pat Hill was the head coach? The
Yeah.
man was anytime, anywhere, any place. And I remember him going to Madison and beating the Badgers one time. So again, that mentality, I'm sure, is still going to be maintained here in the 2023 Fresno State Bulldogs. Now, defensively, Alan, that's where I think they look like they're stronger right out of the gate. They like their line. They have two very good cornerbacks and a good linebacker and a heck of a defensive coordinator in Kevin Coyle. So again, this is a team that's going to be prepared, and they are coming out. They did get out here a day early, Alan. They came out on Thursday, as you sort of speculated a couple of days ago, to get acclimated to that time zone change. So they'll be ready. And Purdue's going to win this game, Alan. It's probably going to have to do so in the fourth quarter, like that Minnesota-Nebraska game.
Right.
When ugly, Minnesota found a way to win.
Could not have been uglier.
And again, that Purdue may find itself in a similar circumstance. Maybe I'm wrong, but the point spread's gone from about Purdue -6 to about Purdue -3. I think it's going to be a fun, close ball game. And like most games, and like most things in life, Alan, it's going to come down to who doesn't beat themselves and make the most mistakes, usually, typically.
Yeah, you look at a debut for Ryan Walters,
Yeah.
which is another great storyline, but it really does come down to who executes, blocking, making plays that are in front of you. Don't make big mistakes.
Yeah.
Nebraska had 4 turnovers in last night's game. It really ended
Yeah.
up costing them. They got maybe a bad call on a touchdown that wasn't. But that happens in college football, as we know, and it really is going to come down, especially when you're playing somebody like Fresno State that knows what it's doing, and they are loaded for bear, so to speak. They are waiting on that opportunity to beat a Big Ten team and the Big Ten television contract and all the things that you can imagine Jeff Tedford talking to his team about when they get in that little huddled locker room on the southwest corner of Ross 8 Stadium. So that's what's going to be a fun part of this. I have to admit, you just don't know. And then you talk about, you've chronicled more than anyone just the number of new players that are going to be making an impact for Purdue tomorrow. And that is also a storyline, because you just, again, we don't know because we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them a lot in practice outside of kind of dancing with each other in the front end of things. That also adds to this intrigue.
Yeah, I think the game notes said there were 17 portal transfers on the Purdue 2 deep. And offensive line and secondary have been impacted most by transfer additions, just to give you a little idea of the areas that have been turned over the greatest, impacted the greatest by these portal additions. So, yeah, we're going to get to see number 1 Hudson Card, and really eager to watch him, Alan, see what he's all about. Really eager to watch Deion Burks, number 4, running backs. And there's going to be some key players missing because of injury, Alan. We know Garrett Miller's not going to play. Purdue's best NFL prospect, the tight end. The left tackle, Ahmed Musa, he's a 50-50 if he'll play or not. That'd be a big loss, I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think he's a nice left tackle. Not a lot of depth at tackle. And center, Alan, they may be down the number 3 center. We know Gus Hartwig's not playing. I think Josh Kaltenberg is going to try to give it a go. But I guess I'm leaning toward him probably not playing. Maybe I'll be wrong. So you could have Austin Johnson snapping the ball, which I don't think I think he can handle it. He's a veteran. So again, those are some things for people to keep on their radar as far as key players that will be out or may be out. Defensively, I think they're going to be in pretty good shape. Sanusi Kane's going to play with like a little cast on his left wrist and hand, but he should be all right. So yeah, they health-wise, I guess, coming out of camp are probably in about as good a shape as they could expect. Everybody's got bumps and bruises, Alan. Everybody can tell you a sad story, right? You just got to deal with it and try to figure things out. And yeah, again, how will Ryan Walters and this staff deal with adversity? Because it comes every game, Alan, 2 or 3 times. We know we have these momentum shifts in games. You get punched in the nose. What's your response? So that's always intriguing. What do they look like coming out of halftime with adjustments? And you never want to read too much into the first game, especially good or bad. But it'll at least give us that initial, I guess, measuring point moving forward, and we'll get a little bit of sense of what all this new personnel looks like too.
Yeah, and Hudson Card, you had a chance to spend some time with him for a little bit more time this week with the Boilermaker Alliance and your 100-yard walk with him. But this is a guy that has all the, you really can't help but like this kid. Very even keeled. Of course, Purdue's quarterback, and the guy that has got a lot on his shoulders, but doesn't seem to be overwhelmed by that. Of course, he comes to Purdue from Texas. He played against Alabama last year. He's seen the lights be pretty bright on him. But just your impressions of him and it always comes down to good quarterback play and whether you're going to get that done in game one or any game. So Purdue seems to be in good shape with a guy named Hudson Card.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be fazed by the big moment. Like you said, he's played on a pretty big stage in Austin, played against Alabama, like you noted, Alan. So he's unflappable. That's one word that always comes to mind every time I've spoken to Hudson Card, and I've spent I don't know, a decent amount of time talking since he's gotten here, and just unflappable and a good person, smart, and I think physically, Alan, they say he can make all the throws, but the thing that the people remark about is that athletic ability, which could really be a difference maker for him at this position, right? He can extend plays with his feet. He can buy time, keep plays alive, let things break open downfield. But if he has to run, Alan, he can run. So a nice weapon. Aiden O'Connell wasn't the fleetest of foot. Jack Plummer was okay. I guess, Sindler wasn't that fleet. David Blau could run a little bit, but this is a quarterback that I think maybe brings a dimension that Purdue hasn't had under center since I don't know when, Alan. Maybe you can help me out. I tried to black out the Danny Hope and Daryl Hazel era.
Well, Drew Brees amazingly in his
run.
last year ran for over 500 yards. Amazingly, people don't remember that, but
he had some long runs,
but still not a natural runner. Of course, these guys have that comparison being Austin, Texas guys, but yeah, I'm really intrigued by watching him and seeing what we're gonna see. That's what's
I was wondering too, not to get off on tangent. When was the last time a team from California was in Ross-Age Stadium?
The Berkeley Bears, right?
It was Berkeley.
I did my Cal Purdue number 17 Cal.
I remember that game.
Jim Coletto's second year, Purdue pulled an upset and just absolutely hammered them with 34 points in the first half.
Yeah.
And Ramon Batten had a big run, if you can remember that one.
Well, it's Arlie Connors.
And Arlie Connors as well, and Purdue wins that game. And boy, thought the Boilermakers were off to the races.
Yeah,
it did not happen. They lost to Toledo the next week. But the last game against a team from California, of course, Drew Brees' debut in the 100-degree temperatures of the LA Coliseum, the Pigskin Classic, and I believe USC beat Purdue. I know USC beat Purdue 27-17 that day. So trips from California schools. We talked about Stanford in 1981. UCLA made a trip here in 80, right?
In 80,
and so in UCLA or Stanford was here in 81 and 82 with the great John Elway at quarterback. So it's always fun. That's the fun thing, as I said. All the things we've talked about, conference realignment, NIL, it still comes down to those memories of games and things that you talk about at your tailgate party or when you're walking into Ross-Age Stadium. Yeah, we're going to see a different field, but it's still the same place that Purdue opened 100 seasons ago.
Yeah, wow.
And that's a big part of this whole nostalgia that we all feel when we watch college football.
And Alan, USC was here in '76, I believe, with Ricky Bell.
Ricky Bell, the great Ricky Bell, and Purdue, and beat Purdue relatively handily that day, though Purdue did stay competitive against a very good USC team.
Yeah.
So there just haven't been all that many trips from California teams. UCLA played here in the late 50s, early 60s, I think, to a tie. So there have been a few, but not very many.
And this is the only meeting that Purdue is not making a return trip to Fresno. This is a one-off.
Yeah, I wondered how that was a Morgan Burke deal. I assume.
Well, I think, this was hatched in 2019. I think Jason
Oh,
Bedecofer
oh, oh,
brokered it.
late. That's right. That's right.
They're paying
Late.
them. They're paying like $1.3 million to Fresno.
Yeah, and a good game. Certainly going to be a competitive game. One would think. All right, Tom. We'll let you rest and get ready for a full day Saturday as Purdue takes on Fresno State and Golden Black Live on our 16th season. I think you've probably appeared just about every year in one form or another.
16
Uh,
years, Alan. Golden
yeah, it's
Black.
hard to believe.
Yeah, you got
And
this
we appreciate
franchise.
the folks at WLFI, of course, Gordon Jackson and the staff there for making this happen. Triple X and State Farm, our sponsors. We'll be back next week with another episode. We'll get Tom. We may have to record him a little bit early because he'll be making his way to Blacksburg, Virginia, LA via Omaha or via Charlotte. Make his way for Purdue's first road game, and what an interesting game that will be. But that game will become we'll know that storyline a little more after we find out how the Boilermakers play tomorrow against Fresno State. So, Tom, thanks again. Thank also to, again, Mike Babinski and Chad Q. Brown for being a guest. Really good show today. We appreciate that. And we'll see you next week on Golden Black Live.